And we're back for another film review. Today we're talking about Eddington, a 2025 American neo-western black comedy thriller, say that 5 times fast, written and directed by Ari Aster. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Luke Grimes, Deirdre O'Connell, Michael Ward, Austin Butler, and Emma Stone. The film is set in New Mexico during 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and centers on the chaos surrounding a contested mayoral election between Sheriff Joe Cross and Mayor Ted Garcia. Now, Eddington has been out for a while. It was released in the US about a month ago, but has only just been released here in Australia, and I think it's fair to say that it isn't having the strong impact on pop culture that it was hoping for. The film is heavily underperforming in the box office, which is a surprise based on Ari Aster's previous work. They've never been smash successes, but he has been building this cult status among moviegoers for having these incredible, jaw-dropping moments that you just have to see on the big screen. But that goodwill seems to have dropped off here. Maybe it's due to the subject matter, or maybe it's because it might still be too early for this type of film centering on the pandemic. Who knows? All I know is that Ari Aster is a filmmaker that I have a lot of respect and admiration for, and that makes me want to see his films regardless of what the public is saying about it. Now, much like Aster's other films, I find it hard to pin down whether I could say I actually enjoyed this one. Hereditary remains one of my all-time favourite horror films, but I wouldn't say that was because it was fun to watch. Midsommar and Beau is Afraid I found to be incredibly intense, so much so that I've only ever watched them once, and I think that was enough. But with Eddington, I'm sorry to say, but I don't think it works to the level Aster was aiming for. The biggest issue is the cast. You've got this star-studded lineup, but most of them feel underutilized, with talent like Phoenix, Pascal, Stone, Butler, names that could carry any film. It was surprising how so many of them are given shockingly little to do. Emma Stone in particular feels almost incidental, which is baffling considering her talent. Austin Butler too is reduced to a character that never rises above background noise. The pacing doesn't help either. The first half is painfully slow, weighed down by a flat style that doesn't feel like Aster at all. It's almost anonymous. The writing leans on the most obvious signifiers of the COVID era. You've got mask jokes, awkward elbow bumps, and people squabbling over distancing rules. It's like watching a series of stereotypes stitched together rather than a film with insight. And it's not that these details are inaccurate, it's that they're obvious, shallow, and just not engaging. But then comes the second half, and this is where you can feel Aster's fingerprints. It suddenly becomes more stylized, more intense, and genuinely jaw-dropping. The last 30 minutes are absolutely just batshit insane. The problem is that by then I just didn't care. In Hereditary and Midsommar, for example, I was invested by that point because of the characters, especially because they were deeply flawed. Their journeys made the horror resonate. In Eddington, the characters never rise above sketches. They're vehicles for ideas, not people I could connect with. So when the chaos hit its peak, it just felt hollow. The spectacle was there, but the emotional impact wasn't. I think it's also fair to say that Eddington is a film overflowing with ideas. The tagline, "Hindsight is 2020", is fantastic, but the film itself feels like it struggles with balancing all these ideas. It's a jack of all trades, master of none. It tries to comment on politics, society, personal trauma, and how individuals exploit or get crushed by systems unraveling during a crisis. But the ideas never quite gel together into something cohesive. On paper, it's a film about America's politics during COVID. In practice, it's a surface-level satire. The humour and commentary never dig into nuance, it's all about broad strokes. And frankly, I found parts of it not just uninteresting, but also unintelligent. For example, the film goes out of its way to depict how fraught and vitriolic American politics were at the time. But, from an outsider looking in, it somehow never mentions Trump or the MAGA movement, both of which directly exacerbated these issues. That's a glaring omission. Instead, we're treated to easy caricatures. Loud youth protesters around George Floyd's murder, women turning to right-wing conspiracies framed as a kind of coping mechanism, all presented in ways that feels bizarrely cruel and misguided. It's as if Aster is more interested in escalating absurdity than in saying something meaningful about why people acted the way they did. Like all of Aster's films though, Eddington still managed to give me anxiety, sap me of hope for humanity, and leave me in a deep depression. So if you come to Aster for existential despair, this film will scratch that itch. But for me, Hereditary terrified me because it felt personal. Midsommar unsettled me because it was so uncompromising. Eddington left me cold because it never felt like it had the courage, or maybe even the clarity, to say anything truly meaningful about the moment it was depicting. So, where does that leave Eddington? For me, it's a messy, ambitious experiment. A stylish second half buried beneath a dull and uninspired first half. A phenomenal cast left stranded with nothing to do. A collection of bold ideas that never quite gel into a clear statement. It's not without merit. There are moments that shock, unsettle, and disturb, but without the grounding of compelling characters or sharper commentary, it ends up feeling hollow. But that's just my take on Eddington. Now I want to hear yours. What did you think of Ari Aster's latest? Did it land for you, or did it feel like a missed opportunity? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one.